All right.
What's up, Omar?
We are back. Back at it again, ladies and gentlemen. As you can see, Freddie Mercury here.
Mr. Garvey here.
Steve Harvey. I mean,
Steve Harvey.
Mr. Garvey, substitute teacher. And we got the King of the North, Jon Snow.
Hi. He says that.
So obviously, this is our Halloween. This is our Halloween episode. And we're gonna go over the usual things that we go over on the Next Go Wins podcast, which is mostly just
Nothing.
just a bunch of random stuff, BS. But yeah, we're looking to have a fun time today because obviously we're in costumes, so should be fun. Where should we start? Obviously Joe's back.
I'm back. They invited me back for a second episode.
He's been invited back.
Yes.
I think we do a two episode trial for most most participants, and then after that we decide
That makes sense.
cut off or not.
Short and sweet.
You guys were, okay. Short and sweet earlier, so it's not
Do you have
looking
any?
good
Do you
for
want?
me.
Do you want to state your case on why you should return to the Next Go Wins podcast?
No. I think the numbers will speak for themselves.
The numbers.
I will say. You guys' predictions last week.
Oh, you want to start with the predictions?
I do
of
want to
course he
start
wants
with
to
that.
start with the
I want to start with that.
First of all, Georgie did not make it to the prediction segment, so
not.
you can't really talk.
But I did message you the predictions.
Doesn't matter.
It does matter.
I never saw them.
Well, look, go through his messages and you can see them.
He got.
I don't like to go through other grown people's phones.
You got
so-
6 points out of 10, which is pretty good.
I got
really
6
good.
out of 10.
8 gives you free champion grind merch. So if you get 8 points, do you give yourself free champion grind merch?
That's a good point. Yeah. Only in the United States, by the way, guys. Just disclaimer. Only in the United States.
Champion grind can only ship within the 48 continental
continental United
states.
Yep.
All
Or
right.
for you Alaskan fans
So,
out there.
We'll drive to you.
Well, let's go through some of those games. The first one, the easy one, I would say Arsenal.
Yeah.
Arsenal Sheffield.
Close game.
3-0. Eddie Nketiah gets the hat trick.
5-5.
5-0?
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, he scored the 3. That's what I'm.
He scored 3 of the 5.
It's
Yeah.
fine. So I stopped watching at 3. I think that's what it was. I stopped watching.
Oh,
at
because
3.
you wanted your predictions to be right?
What are you, Joe? What are your thoughts?
It counts as correct if he just turns off the TV.
What are your thoughts on Nketiah?
I love Nketiah sometimes. This past weekend, I loved him. I think the thing I love about him is as a striker, when he gets the ball, he is thinking about one thing and one thing only, and that is shoot. And I think it was shown pretty well with his third goal. Got the ball from 25 yards out, and the second he received it, you could tell exactly what was in his mind. And when it comes off like it did on Saturday, great. I'm very happy he scored a hat trick, especially with Jesus now being out for a little bit. I'm hoping he can step in like he did last year and deliver goals when Jesus is out, which is exactly what we need him for. So,
Do you think that Arsenal can win the Premier League with Nketiah as our main striker?
main striker, no. With him coming off and being our second when Jesus is out and missing time, I think we can, yeah.
Georgie, your thoughts?
I think we talked about this last year, on this podcast. You weren't a big fan of Nketiah.
Still not.
You're still not.
Really?
That's impressive. See,
Wow.
this is where I stand on it because he's a poacher. He's something that you guys do not have, and not many teams have. He only thinks about, like Joe said, the only thing he thinks about is a goal. Shoot, that's the only thing on his mind. Players like that are very hard to find, especially it's not only just to shoot and being a poacher inside the box, but to actually score. Because he can shoot all day long, but to actually score and find the net, it's Chicharito type of a player where he's inside the box at all times and always finds a way to score.
That was my problem with him. Was the reason why I didn't like him so much was because that is his mentality. And Arsenal was doing so well because all of our goals were coming from all around the entire team. We didn't have a Haaland or a Harry Kane or anything like that. So all of our goals came from the team. So when he comes on, there were some plays where the pass was the better option and he would try and shoot and he wouldn't score. So I think now it's probably I like him a little bit more because obviously he's finishing the opportunity. So a hat trick is very hard to get in any match. So I think the fact that he managed to get a hat trick and he's actually putting some opportunities away makes me feel better about him being a little bit more selfish in front of the box. But still not a big fan. I still think we need a better striker.
But do you?
Him or
but
Jesus?
is it
I don't think
to me, if we, I agree with you. I think we need a better striker, but to me, it's not to replace him. I think it would be to replace Jesus, because you need a better top tier striker, and then having Nketiah to me as a second option, is insane and is amazing.
So
and
you
it's
would
a huge luxury.
So you would trade Jesus and keep Nketiah,
Yeah.
to be the guy off the bench.
yeah. Because and when he steps in when Jesus or whoever the primary striker's out, he can deliver goals.
But the thing is, they're completely different players. That's you need to have the plan A and plan B.
I don't know if you do need a plan A or plan B, or you just need some depth for a team like Arsenal. Because our playing style is going to be the same regardless of who we have up top. So while they give us something different, it's like for me, I would rather just imagine this. Imagine Harry Kane as our number 9 at Arsenal, which I know probably would never happen, or maybe it can still happen. But imagine Harry Kane with all of the things that Arsenal do in the build-up. If you have somebody like Harry Kane who can put goals away, I think we have a real chance of winning the Premier League. Whereas it's always going to be on our in the supporters' minds of like, is Eddie Nketiah good enough? Is Gabriel Jesus good enough? We're close, but I think that's the missing piece. So I don't think it's necessarily we need 2 different options. We just need, like Joe said, we just need somebody who's going to be our main striker, and then for the few games that he's not there, Nketiah can step up and do the job.
But then you were talking about Harry Kane, arguably the best striker. I mean, there's like 3 or 4 right now. You can be like, all right, these are the top. You don't find guys like that randomly.
No, there's not very few in the world.
But he's when you talk, for example, Harry Kane, to me, he's a complete striker. Where at one point last year, in the beginning for Spurs, he was playing like a false 9, letting Son and Kulusevski like down the line, and they were doing great. Then at one point, it changed where he was the main guy scoring all the goals and shooting and all that stuff.
Yeah.
So he's a complete striker, which he would fit in perfect at Arsenal because that's what you guys like. The build up, Gabriel Jesus does that to a lesser extent, what Harry Kane would do. But again, I don't think the goal appreciation is like there's not that many strikers that can score goals.
Mm-hmm.
So you have like Chirito. Nobody cared about him when he was at Manchester United, but he would always score. He wasn't like talked about. He wasn't like he would always go in the last 10, 15 minutes and find a way to score. You need those type of players.
Yeah.
Like to find a goal. Gabriel Jesus, he'll score goals and he'll be involved in the build-up. Is he Harry Kane level? No, of course he's not. But Nketiah is just like that. Like I don't know. To me, he's like a completely different player than Jesus. He's not going to drop back. He's literally just going to stay inside the box. Arsenal are going to do their build-up, and then as soon as there's a cross, as soon as there's any low cross pass in and around the box, he's going to shoot. Yeah. And you need players like that just because of goals. Like wasn't it when you get the games goals?
Well, if he keeps performing like he did in the last game, then I think he might actually beat out Jesus for a starting position because he's been knocking at the door for a while and trying to convince Arteta to keep him there. And I think Arteta, because of the relationship he has with Jesus back at Manchester City, kind of always preferred Jesus. But yeah, Jesus is not one of those strikers that's going to score you a bunch of goals each season, but he's going to help in the build-up. So I wonder which one Arteta values more.
And depends on the game.
I was going to say, I think it depends on the game, and it depends on having someone like Nketiah to bring off the bench when you are chasing a game and you need a goal, because he plays obviously the same position, but when you swap the two, it changes the way that Arsenal plays, which I think it also is one of the reasons, going back to the Chelsea game. Things, obviously the scoreline changed, but when you make those types of moves and you scheme for one thing, all of a sudden now as a center back, you're looking and runs behind, opposed to Jesus, who's more times than not going to be playing in front of you. So it does help to change the game. So, yeah. But I'm surprised to hear you don't like someone like Eddie Nketiah, especially the way you play.
He's growing on me a little bit.
You tried to just finish all of the time.
Yeah.
I thought you'd very much appreciate someone like
He's
him.
growing on me. I just felt like last year he was quite selfish in a lot of situations where we could have scored a goal had he been a little bit more team-oriented.
Does that remind you of Javi at all?
No. I stopped playing striker a long time ago because I didn't want to run. So I just started playing center mid.
So you started playing center mid, but ended up as a striker. I mean, you play with him.
Yeah, I would end up as a striker.
Started as a 6 and go.
So let's move on. Manchester City, Manchester United. We haven't talked much about Manchester United. There was a period at the beginning where they were complete shambles. Ten Hag comes in, does a pretty good job, kind of gets them back into being a respected opponent. Now, are they back in shambles mode?
Yeah, they are.
And why?
I just
By the way,
think
I'm losing circulation with my first mic.
I mean, you can take it off.
I'm going to keep it on because I have to have the whole outfit to make this work. But go ahead. Sorry.
Well, it just, I think he's lost the locker room. I think it's just too many things that are gone not his way, and people are just not buying into it. I mean, you had the Ronaldo whole entire thing for weeks, months that played out. And then when Ronaldo left, they went on the streak. Like you said, oh, we're back. Manchester United's back. And then somehow, again, we're talking about Sancho, where he's a bad apple in the locker room. He needs to apologize. He needs to do this. And then it seems like we're just going one after another excuse of like individual players. And then at one point it was Maguire. Everybody obviously jumped on Maguire. It's like, oh, he's not good enough. Why is he playing?
And then Onana as well, the goalkeeper.
Onana, they brought him in. He hasn't performed. But I think the players are not buying in. And especially with the choices he made, like, did you guys watch the game today?
Yeah.
The lineup, it was
Johnny Evans and
Johnny Evans
Harry Maguire over Varane.
Over Varane, and that's a guy who's French national team, Champions League winner, Real Madrid for years, not just like one.
Yeah, but he's gotten a bit of criticism lately as well too.
He has, but then you play Lindelof as the left back, was it, or right back?
Yeah.
And then it just
Jallo
the whole entire. There's a lot of people on Twitter, Manchester United fans, saying that this is like his resignation game of like, this is my lineup and I'm just gonna go with it. These are the players that I want to go with. But I just think that the locker room, he just doesn't have I don't want to say the respect, because who knows what's going on in there, but they're just not buying into it. Whatever, like if you watch the Manchester United game right now, that from today, we were talking with Joe earlier, it reminded me of how they play against Arsenal. There was literally, the game plan was going counterattack, and that's it. When Ole was here at Manchester United, the reason why he got so much criticism for the exact same thing. There's no game plan. You just wait to play on the counter and you're trying to win games like that. And right now you watch Manchester United, it's like, what is, like, he's been there long enough for where you should see, oh, what's the playing style? What are they good at? What are they not good at? What do they lack? And you're just, like, all they do is counterattack. So it doesn't seem like there's any structure at all. So, I mean, I don't want to say they've got worse, but they're staying the same. And if you're staying the same at this level and you're fighting for like 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th, then it's, I don't, especially in Manchester United, it's not really a success.
I'd agree with a lot of things you said. Watching the game today, I thought Manchester United was going to show up a little bit better. And that game could have very easily been 4 or 5-0. I think Onana had a few great saves to keep it, I guess, closer than what it could have been. And I could not figure out for the life of me what Manchester United was trying to do. I had no idea what their game plan was, except for what you were saying, which was try and catch City on the counter, which it's not a really easy team to counter, especially when you sit back as far as they did. Like most teams, I feel like, who do well against City try and press and catch them in the back and then can nick a goal that way. But United's in a bad spot, and I don't know if Ten Hag's the guy to get it sorted. I hadn't even thought about the locker room piece,
actually talk possible replacements. Manchester United's a tough club. Ever since Sir Alex Ferguson retired, they have not found a consistent manager. And I think part of the problem has been they want somebody who can follow that performance up of Sir Alex Ferguson, but they want them to do it right away. And even Sir Alex Ferguson, the first couple of years or whatever, it was not good at Manchester United until he ended up building the dynasty that it was. Who do you think is the best fit right now for Manchester United if they get rid of Ten Hag? Because, I mean, the whole point of Ten Hag as well, not the whole point, but one of his strengths supposedly was that he was going to straighten everybody up in the locker room, that he was going to have structure, he was going to have discipline. So if that's still a problem, who do you think they need?
I mean, Zidane has always been one of the main, always linked to the job. But you got to think, why would somebody want that job?
Right.
Like you're taking over a team that Mourinho couldn't straighten out, Ten Hag couldn't, Ole couldn't. Like all these, you go name by name, and it's like, why would I even put my name into that hat of so much pressure? One, from the fans and from the owners. Because there's always that trouble with the ownership trying to sell and not selling, trying to sell year after year. That's all we hear about. And it gets to the managers, because if you're not getting the results, if you're not getting to the top fours, which Ten Hag did last year, which is fine and it's great, but you need to have progress if you're not just fighting for the fourth spot.
Especially as Manchester United, of course.
So I mean, I can't even think of like
I have one.
Honestly, I can't think of a top manager. Like I don't think a Zidane would want to go there, or any manager who's had a history of succeeding. I don't think they're going to say I want to go take on that project. I could see someone like an Unai Emery maybe, because obviously it didn't work at Arsenal and he was there. He's doing pretty well with Villa. That if that job opened up, I think he'd jump ship and move. But outside of someone of that level that would try and, I guess, like get promoted upwards in terms of club status, I don't think anyone would want to take that right now.
Unai Emery's almost like he does better with lower clubs than he does with better clubs, right? One name that I think about is Eddie Howe. Because I think if you're clearly the whole discipline thing is not working, then you need to switch it up. Maybe you switch it up completely to somebody who's a little bit more, I wouldn't say less disciplined, but more about player management and like making sure the players are happy, making sure the players are okay, trying to fresh ideas, a little bit more modern, younger, with a little bit more energy. I wonder if Eddie Howe would be interested in that. It's a natural progression, right? I mean, he's doing well at Newcastle, but it's still Manchester United is a bigger club than Newcastle. So do you think that would be an enticing job for him?
Part of me, I mean, yeah, Manchester United is a bigger club than Newcastle, Manchester United being one of the biggest in the world, but from like a support from the club, from what you have, from how bought in that fan base is, if I'm Eddie Howe, I stay where, especially after watching something of with Graham Potter last year, where you go from a Brighton team that all of a sudden things are clicking, things are rolling, and then boom, 4 or 5 months after that, you're out of a job and still now unemployed. I don't think it would be in his best interest to do that, but you never know.
That's the thing, though. If Graham Potter doesn't take the Chelsea job last year, he's got to always wonder what could have been had I taken that job. So it's like one of those things where it's like, yes, you might fail. However, if you don't fail, that could be the catalyst for like real success. From then on, you become the manager that's only bouncing from top club to top club. So let's say Potter does really well at Chelsea. Eventually, they sack him because he loses 3 games in a row. But then next thing you know, Manchester United is the next job, or Arsenal is the next job. And that could go very different. Like right now, Eddie Howe is working on a project at Newcastle. I wonder how much credit he's going to get for their turnaround versus how much it's going to be people just saying, well, they new owners, lots of money, less about the coach and more about just the fact that they were rich, so they started buying all good players. I think he's had a bigger effect than most people think. So I wonder if he would take that Manchester United job, and let's say he does really well with Manchester United gets them back to the top 2 spots, and then all of a sudden, now not only do people really appreciate his coaching, but now the next job for him could be Real Madrid, Barcelona, one of those top, Bayern Munich, one of those top clubs. As a coach, it's a risk, but that's a risk I would be willing to take for sure. And I think he's built Newcastle to a really good point. I mean, what would be the point at which you would say, if you're Eddie Howe, at which you would say, I'm ready for the next step in my career? At what point where do you take Newcastle for you to be able to say that?
I think if I'm Eddie Howe, you look at it, the thing probably wouldn't be what Newcastle does, what dictates it, as much as it is what does the new opportunity look like. Is it an opportunity that he can go into and he feels like I can move this forward and the ownership's aligned with me? Or is it I'm going into this new place to hopefully maybe turn something into nothing, scrape some magic beans together? Because I don't think that he would get the support or backing he would want from ownership at Man United to go there and be able to move everything that he would want to move, if that makes any sense. But
the only thing is the name. That's the only thing that's going to make you jump ship from Newcastle. But Newcastle are in a good, really good spot. Like, if you think about it right now, you're challenging top 4. And imagine you get into the top 4 and start challenging for the league in the next 2-3 years. If you're Eddie Howe, you're like, why would you... Like, Brighton is a bit different because Brighton, I think there's a ceiling to it. With Brighton, I don't think they ever... Even if Graham Potter stays or whoever's at Brighton, you have the limit just because you're spending. You're going to get the young players, but all those players are going to want to go to the next team. Mm-hmm. So there's the ceiling. With Newcastle, I feel like the top players would want to go there just because Newcastle is the only team in the city. The fan base is really all about
there's
it.
A history
and the money as well. The money
and
now,
the money.
Now they've completed that part, right?
So you have all of that going where like you look at like teams like Brian and like I don't know who else, like West Ham's, like those players going there are always going to want to go to the higher teams where players are like, I mean, last year we were talking about possibly Mbappe going to Newcastle, like Mbappe
Right.
or Neymar going to Newcastle. We're never going to talk about Neymar and Mbappe going to West Ham or Brian or anything like that.
Right.
You're going to talk about the younger
I agree
players.
with you. I think Brighton's a little bit different because right now their academy set up, and that's one of the reasons why they're being successful. But yeah, at a certain point, money has to be one of the big
Yeah.
parts of your club. Otherwise, you're not going to be able to compete for a long period of time.
Plus, imagine if you go to Manchester United. He's going to take him a year or two or whatever to change the whole entire mood and everything. It's not going to be a rapid thing where it's like, all right, 2 games in, we're set.
I also think that one of the things would be you don't want to stay there too long. So like, let's say he stays at Newcastle and they reach top 4, but then the next season they're down to 6th or 7th. Does his stock go down as a coach because now they're 6th or 7th, where those opportunities maybe aren't going to be the same as where, it's almost like you got to get off the boat when it's at its highest peak, right? Yeah. Does he wait until he achieves something? Does he wait until he's finally like, okay, we've reached the ceiling and now we're on the way down? I don't know.
I feel like he would stay just because of his. I mean, he can change, but at Bournemouth, he was rated one of the best managers still at the time when even Bournemouth was like struggling. When they were mid-table in the Premier League, he was like, wow, the best English manager, and like hands down, nobody's even doubting that. So I think from Bournemouth to Newcastle is obviously a really good move, especially with the money. And then is his stock gonna go down? I mean, yeah. I mean, who knows?
Who knows, right?
Yeah.
I mean, they could continue to do well, get Champions
Yeah.
League, finish in 4th place or whatever.
Yeah.
And
I mean, I could see him just, I mean, what is it? It's going to be 2024 here in a few months. I could see him just staying at Newcastle for another season or 2. And then depending on how Southgate goes at the World Cup, I bet you this will be his last World Cup. That if I'm Eddie Howe and I'm looking at this and I stay at Newcastle for 2 more years, that job opens up. I can't see many people in England who would be opposed to him taking on a pretty young national team. He might be waiting for something like that, but...
Yeah, I do think he's a really good coach, though.
Yeah. So the reason why we've been a little bit more consistent with this podcast is also because Liverpool's been doing well. So Georgie actually shows up now.
That is not
literally
the truth.
last year when Liverpool were having a nightmare of a season, Georgie was sick every time we had to record a podcast.
First off, guys, I don't get sick.
So your boys are doing pretty well.
Yeah,
The
good.
the good thing that you're probably happy about is the fact that they're actually consistent now.
Yeah.
Whereas before it was like they beat Bournemouth 9-0 and then they go and lose their next game against somebody from mid-table or whatever.
Yeah.
So how do you feel, Georgie?
I mean, the whole mood's changed. Confidence, like every game going into it, I don't want to say you expect to win, but the confidence is there. Like you can tell Jurgen Klopp, the fan base, the players, whenever, like you can just tell first touch, passing, everything was a lot better than last year. Everything's just a completely different level. And I mean, as long as everybody stays healthy, I said this before in the first podcast we had this year, Liverpool are going to challenge for the title. As long as we stay
All right,
healthy.
so where are you at right now? Are you 3rd?
4th.
4th.
Oh, within like 4 or 5
It's very tight, isn't it?
Yeah. There's a little 5-point gap from 5th to 6th. And then
Oh, yeah. But so your 3 points separates you from Tottenham at the top.
yep.
It's a pretty good spot to be in this early in the season.
And just imagine if the VAR decisions didn't go against us.
No, we're not even going to get into VAR. We recorded the entire podcast last time
Because VAR,
on VAR.
But no, it's very early. It's 10 games in, so it is what it is. But
What
it's
do
a
you
good
have
spot
to say?
be in.
What do you have to say about your boy Darwin Nunez?
Absolutely amazing. What there's nothing to
Literally
say.
amazing to get around to his first touch to
Yes.
get around the defender, gets around the goalkeeper,
Yeah.
and then misses a sitter.
Yeah, but then we score off that. It's okay. But he scored in that game too. That's 2 games and 1 assist and 2 goals and 1 assist.
You're counting that as an assist?
No.
I was about to say.
No, and the 2 games this week,
his
in midweek,
assist today, I think, right?
midweek, and
Or yesterday.
Europa League, and then
Europa League doesn't count. Mickey Mouse League. You can't. Mickey Mouse League doesn't count, George.
What?
Those
Yeah.
stats don't exist. Those stats don't
I'm
exist.
counting. Oh no! I'm counting everything. This week has been really. I mean, this whole season has been really good about Darwin.
I will give Darwin credit for this. He's finally starting to settle in where he For him, I honestly thought it was a bit of a confidence issue. I think he had imposter syndrome at the beginning where he was like, I'm not sure if I'm actually ready to be in the Premier League and be a top striker and be able to live up to all of the hype. I think he's finally starting to realize, okay, I belong here, and he's missing a little bit less than he did last year. Because last year, fantastic to get into the right spaces. We were talking about this last time, but they just couldn't finish. This year is doing a little bit better.
But the thing is, you got to think about, he came into a Liverpool team that were struggling. Like last year was a struggle for Liverpool. There was now one player where
you can't come into a perfect team every single year. You have to still perform.
But
that's why they bring you in as well. That's why they bring you in. They brought him in to replace Sadio Mane, and also not necessarily position for position, but because they needed somebody with that amount of talent, and also because they knew that Firmino was not going to be there for too much longer.
And he's playing as a striker. He didn't play as a striker as many times last year. He played on the wing.
True. Why do you think you guys are doing so much better this season than the last?
Just the overworking of every single player and the rebuild of the midfield. 2 years ago, we went in every single tournament. So in the Premier League, in the Champions League, and we played every single game possible that you can play in the season. So we went to the finals. We lost. We went up until last few days of the season. We didn't end up winning the league. And then playing all those games, I think it was 72 games or whatever it was overall for Liverpool, using mostly the same players. It was just a burnout. So last year was a complete struggle. And when you play so many games, the Champions League goes into late May, and then the summer vacation is less.
So short.
And then you come back a little bit later, and then everybody's legs were just overworked.
And
the
World Cup in the middle of all that.
World Cup in the middle of
So
that.
what do you think you need to do then? Because you're talking about, and Klopp talks about this, a lot of the managers talk about there's too many games in a calendar year. However, it is the same for the top clubs, right? Manchester City, Arsenal, Liverpool. Who else is playing Champions League this year? Tottenham? No, not Tottenham. Newcastle. Sorry. Are we good, Mama? All right. So all of these clubs have the same amount of games because they're in the Champions League as well. So you've always talked about Liverpool's depth issues. What does Liverpool need to do? Do they need to buy more players that are going to be on the bench? Do they need to start pushing more players up from the academy? What is it that they're missing in terms of being able to compete with all these other teams?
You need to buy more players. The academy, like Liverpool are actually doing a pretty good job of bringing in players from the academy. I mean, if you look at the bench in all the Premier League games, we have at least 2-3 players that are from the academy, just because we still have Thiago out.
But that's one of your issues, though.
Yeah. Well,
because once you start putting them on the field, you're like, you can tell that there's a reason that Liverpool are struggling because of the injuries, because you're putting these players on the field.
I will say though, the rebuild so far of the midfield it's night and day compared to last year. Like, we have tired legs of Henderson, Fabinho, that are gone now, and you bring in somebody like Szoboszlai, McAllister, even Endo. Endo midweek was sensational. One of the best games he's had so far for Liverpool. So it's refreshing to see that you have younger players, hungry players that can go box to box like Szoboszlai and takes over games. And again, man of the match today when he played, and I think he's probably the best player for Liverpool so far this season. So, and it makes a big difference. It just does when you play the same exact midfield for 4 years,
right?
Where all the teams are changing that midfield every year. It's just going to catch up. Nobody can stay at the same pace for 5-6 years in the Premier League. So
the surprise. Well, I don't know. It might be a surprise to you, might not. Chelsea losing 2-0 to Brentford after a very good performance against Arsenal. Joe, what are your thoughts?
I was disappointed in it only because I picked Chelsea to win the game. I get pretty happy whenever Chelsea loses, so I was excited for that. It made me reflect back to the Arsenal game, and then I started thinking about that game more and more. And yeah, Chelsea, they dominated in terms of like not allowing Arsenal to get many chances, but they did not create too much offensively themselves. When you think about it, a VAR handball, and then the Mudryk cross goal. And I feel like they did the same thing against Brentford, and Brentford found a way to score 2 goals just like Arsenal did in the second half, and Chelsea didn't have luck on their side to get on the board. They just struggle in front of goal, and they get decent chances. They don't get great ones. So they're doing better defensively, which is good to see. But I think they have a similar problem to United in terms of they do need more talent and they have to find more players to get creative in front of goal because they have nothing going forward, it seems like.
Yeah. So I had them winning that game too just because of their performance. But I do agree with Joe's point that like maybe I was misled by the fact that defensively they had such a good performance against a team that should have been much better than them, that I didn't realize that it wasn't really because they created chances or because they were really dangerous in the attack, more so just because they shut Arsenal down for the most part. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It'll be weird to see what happens, but I think that...
How long do you think they give Pochettino?
I think they'll give him to the end of the season no matter what. Okay. I generally think having Nkunku back soon could change things from creating up top. I don't think they'll be relying on Mudryk as heavily then, but it also depends on how well he does coming back from a pretty major injury and hasn't played in the Premier League before, so we'll see if he can get up to pace quickly because they need it.
I think Chelsea are going to be one of those teams where they play really good against the top teams and struggle against the lesser teams. Just because it's a lot easier to sit back and take away the space when another team like Arsenal, Man City, or Spurs, Liverpool, when they have the ball, they can cut off the spaces, drop back, sit deep. Whenever you play against a Brentford, you're expected to win in a way if you're Chelsea, and you have to be the one on the taking control of the game and doing what every other team is doing against you. And then when you find yourself in that position when you can't find the goals or the chances, then you're struggling against the lesser sides. And then you get counterattacked and get scored on. So I think against the bigger teams, they're going to sit back and be very compact, and everything's going to look a lot better. But when you play against teams in the lower half of the table or mid-table, and when the expectation is there to win the game by like 2-3 goals, that's when you're going to find the struggle because they don't have a true goal scorer yet. And then just the chances. I mean, Sterling's playing amazing, but also Enzo was missing over the weekend, so that's a huge miss. Probably the best player of the season so far. I just don't see them being consistent enough.
Do you think they are completely out of Europa League and Champions League?
No, not Europa League. Champions League, yeah.
Okay.
Europa League, no. I mean, Europa League is what, 7th spot? 7th, 8th, or 7th?
Europa's 6th,
because you have
5th and 6th, and then Conference League is 7th and 8th, right?
So are you talking about Conference League, or are you talking about that main
Europa League? League. Because I think
5th and 6th.
Yeah.
That's probably. It just
that's almost. I feel like that would be a stretch for them, right?
They're only 4 points off, aren't they?
No, so 6th and 7th are at 17 points, and they are at 12. Oh yeah, so five points off. So it's
not too bad, but I just don't think they'll be consistent enough to.
Yeah,
they could get there. No chance for the Champions League though.
So let's move away from the Premier League for a bit. The El Clásico was on this weekend. I didn't get to watch it, but I did see the highlights. Barca goes up 1-0 against Real Madrid. It looks like Barca's probably going to hold on and win 1-0. And then Jude Bellingham. Joe?
I called it. I will say that. I did call that.
You were close because you said 3-1.
I did say, you're right. I did not call the scoreline, which Georgie did. He claims in his infamous text
did you
message
get it right?
that no one's seen except for
doesn't exist. It's not on my phone.
Even Javi says he can't find it. So there's that. It played out, I don't want to say exactly kind of like what we were talking about, but it seemed like it did. Xavi did a great job of setting up Barcelona. Although they had those injuries, they still found a way to seem like they were in control until Jude Bellingham got the ball, 30 yards, 28 yards away from goal and lasered it in the upper corner. And then right at the depth, found a way to get into space. There was a little bit of luck with a deflection, but again, he has to be there. Not an easy finish. He somehow managed to adjust his feet, slide the ball between Ter Stegen's legs, and the rest is history. But he is... I didn't get a chance to watch the game either. I watched it when I came home later in the afternoon. And for someone who didn't seem like he was a part of the game that much, it almost just proves what he can become because he's still found a way to take home all 3 points.
It's kind of like... reminds me a little bit of Mbappe's performance in the World Cup final, where Argentina just dominated that whole game. It didn't look like France had any chance, and then all of a sudden he wakes up, and next thing you know, the game's tied, and it's going into overtime at the end, right? So I think the question, I guess, is how good is he? If you were to compare him in the all-time, and I know it's early, that's the problem, because people are like, oh, well, don't get carried away. He's only been there for, he hasn't been there for even half a season. So if you had to compare him right now, or if you think realistically where he's at, what would you say? Could you compare him to Zinedine Zidane? Could you compare him this early? Do you think he's that good?
I think he can be that good. I'm trying to think in my head who you can compare him to, because the way he plays, there's no one I don't think that's ever played the same way. Because he's a mixture of Zidane and Vieira, because he has the athleticism, but he also has like the intelligence going forward and ball movement, and
yeah, he's got a little bit of everything.
He's got everything, and I think he can go. I think he can be, if he continues to grow into what he can be, I think he could be someone who changes the game. Whether you look at people like Messi or Ronaldo or Zidane or like of our lifetime or Henri's, like people who don't have a direct comparison, because
that's right.
He's unreal, and he's what, 20 years old?
Yeah, it's crazy. He's like you said, he's different than Messi. He's different than Ronaldo. You can't really there's not really somebody else you're like, oh man, he reminds me of a young this type of person. The other thing I want to bring up is the fact that when players go to Real Madrid or Barcelona, even when they do well, they don't stand out. Like he looks way above the rest of the Real Madrid players right now. And they're not, I think they're top of the table right now.
Yeah,
they're doing well.
Great.
So for him to stand out that much on a team that's top of the table, when you have Barcelona in that league, and it's Real Madrid, the most historic, you could say it's the most historic club in the history, he's got to be one of the best in history. He's got the potential, He's got the potential to be. How early do you think he wins the Balon d'Or?
I mean, if they win the Champions League and the league this year, then he's going to win the Ballon d'Or.
Yeah.
It's tough because what about like Haaland? So everyone's right now, we can get into this conversation actually, the Ballon d'Or. Everyone right now is saying Messi's going to win it. What are your thoughts? First of all, does Messi win it? Second of all, does he deserve to win it? And third of all, if not, who do you believe will win it or deserves to win it?
It's hard to say he doesn't deserve to win it because it's Messi. So like every time you think about Messi, you're going to think of how amazing and great he is. What are we, so Ballon d'Or, we're talking about what happened last year, right? So that was the World Cup and
it's the World
Cup, Champions League, Premier League from last year. So you have him.
So you have the
Haaland.
World Cup. That's it.
Yeah.
Now I don't say that's it because that's obviously a huge deal.
Well, naturally, in a World Cup year, more focus for the Ballon d'Or is given to
the World Cup.
The World Cup.
Yeah.
So just like, so I mean,
but was he the best player in the world last year?
I don't think so.
Okay, so that's the real question that we're trying to answer.
But
then who was?
Haaland.
Haaland is I mean, won the league, won the Champions League, scored all those goals, important goals. But then you look at Haaland in the biggest games, and it's not like he's standing above everyone. So it's
Harry Kane did say that he feels like maybe the Ballon d'Or is losing its credibility a little bit because everyone's saying that Messi's going to win it. He won the World Cup. However, if you're Erling Haaland, you can't really do much more than what you did.
Yeah.
So, I mean, nobody remembers the fact that maybe he didn't play so well in the big games because of all of the stats that he has, all of the goals that he's actually scored, plus the fact that they won everything. They won the treble. So if you're him, of course, you're going to be a little bit upset because what more can you do? And it's not like Norway's ever going to win a World Cup.
Yeah, so it's not really fair to go that way.
And are they giving it to Messi more because of the legacy? Because it's like, okay, he finally won the World Cup. It was the elusive thing that was chasing him his whole career. He finally won it. Okay, we got to give him the Ballon d'Or so that he can retire off into the sunset. Or is it, is it fair that he would win the Ballon d'Or? Is what I'm asking.
Was it fair that Haaland would win it, or fair that Messi would win?
Messi.
I think it would be fair if either of them won. I think if you win the World Cup or you win a treble, you can make an argument either way. I genuinely think Haaland probably should win it because when you look at all of the body of work, I think Messi will win it. just from the
Yeah.
the story of it all. But I won't be opposed to it though either, because I think what he did in the World Cup was absolutely insane. And if you make the argument that if you just don't, it's not just what he's done with Argentina at the World Cup. If you look at what Argentina did the whole year and has done even after the World Cup, they still haven't given up a goal, I don't think, since the World Cup, and they were undefeated going all the way up until that game against Saudi Arabia. So if you look at what he's done for his national team the whole time,
it's tough.
yeah. But then also he owned the MLS too. You think about that. Maybe there's
All right, well,
there's
can't.
that.
Once you start bringing the MLS into the conversation.
This is the thing. This is what Haaland played 50 games, and he scored all those goals. We're talking about Messi played 7 amazing games. Well, World Cup, how many is that? 3 in the group stage.
Round of 16, quarterfinals, semifinals and finals. So 7 games.
7 games where he was like sensational, let's say.
6 games, though, you could argue, because he lost the first one.
Yeah. So is it fair to if you look at it that way, where Haaland is like at Man City playing every game, scoring all those goals, 50 games, the best striker in the world, and then we have Messi 7 games, wins the World Cup, and played amazing in those 7, let's say. Like it's when you look at it like that, it doesn't seem fair. But you also look at the World Cup, because that you can only win what you're
let's
good.
let's just simplify it, I guess. Hold on.
Well, he's fixing that. You can make the argument though. Can City still win the treble without Haaland? And I think they can, because they've won the Premier League without him. They've won the FA Cup without him. And was he adding him? Was that what got them over the line in the Champions League?
Absolutely.
You think so?
Well, you can't say any different, because how many years has Manchester City been trying to get the Champions League? And every single year it's Pep, and then next thing you know, they bring in Haaland. In the first year they bring Haaland, which was the whole purpose of the transfer. They win the Champions League.
But they win the Champions League because of Rodri finishing after a lucky bounce in the final, because they've gotten to the final before and they just couldn't score in the final. And I could see the argument if Haaland was involved in the goal in any
but not just
avenue. He wasn't even involved in the one thing that did win him the Champions League.
Well, first of all, did they get to the final before?
Yeah, they lost to Chelsea when Havertz scored for Chelsea, 1-0.
Okay. Yeah, but you also got to think of, it's not necessarily only bringing Haaland for that last game.
True.
But it's bringing Haaland to get you to that last game, and then from there, because they had lost in the quarterfinals and in the semifinals the last few years before that. So it's like, I do think he makes a big difference. I'm
not saying he doesn't help. I'm throwing it out there, I guess, mostly as the argument of without Messi, there's no chance Argentina wins anything without him.
Yeah, that's a fair point.
You could make the argument if Haaland misses the final, could they still win?
Yeah, you're right. That's a fair point.
The only other way to look at it is Messi for PSG, and that, like,
yeah, we're really basing it off of the World Cup, right?
Yeah. Like we're.
I guess.
Well, by the way, he did have amazing stats for PSG. Don't get me wrong, but they didn't.
Yeah,
it didn't come to anything for PSG.
So I guess the ultimate question, just to finish off this topic, is the Balon d'Or losing its credibility because of the way that it's choosing the players to win it? Because the whole point of the Balon d'Or is who is the best player in the world in that calendar year or whatever the official dates are. If I asked you that question and I said who was the best player, your answer wouldn't necessarily be tied to the guy that won the World Cup or the guy that won the treble, but the guy who was the best player in your opinion. And most of us, I would feel like, would say that Messi was probably not the best player in the world
overall in the whole
overall.
I agree with that.
Yeah, it's an interesting topic because you talk about NBA, and that's literally what happens in the NBA with like who won to be the most valuable player, the MVP, and all that stuff. Or like I think it's any sport. Like people base it off if you win the championship, it has to be a player from there, and I don't think that's the right way to look at it, because you can have a player that plays absolutely amazing and the best player on a random team in the Premier League or La Liga or wherever, and they don't win. So it's not really fair to base it off that. But I don't know. There's arguments for both sides.
I think since Messi and Ronaldo have been around, it's really started to change, because for such a long time it was just them two.
Yeah.
And now I think it's gotten to a point where it's like, hey, who else could win it besides them? like I even think the year that Modric won, it kind of goes to what you're saying. Was he the best player on the planet that time, or was he on good teams, and both of the teams that he was on happened to do well and go far? You know, in terms of Croatia losing in the World Cup final, and I think it was Real Madrid won the Champions League that year. So I don't know if it's losing its luster, because it's one of those things that as a player, I would assume that every single player would be over the moon to be nominated, be on the short list, but it's not. Maybe this is how it has always been, and we're kind of spoiled because most of our adult life, it's been dominated by two people.
Yeah. And do you think there should be, because I know there's officially they have like a Golden Glove version, don't they?
Yeah.
Or like goalkeeper of the year for the FIFA 11 or whatever it's called. Some people said that they should have like a Balon d'Or specifically for goalkeepers. Should they have one for defenders? Because let's be honest, the chance of you winning the Balon d'Or as a defender are super slim, and the only way you're going to do it is if nobody has a decent year in terms of attacking.
Who's the last defender to win? Was it
Cannavaro.
Yeah.
After the World Cup.
After the
World Cup year. But that's rare, because I think before him, I mean, you can't name a single other one
Van
that
Dijk
was a defender.
close, I think.
Van
Wasn't he
Dijk
top
was close.
three?
Top three, yeah. He was third.
So do you think there should be another award for Defender of the Year that's like Balon d'Or?
But then we're going like, okay, well, striker, their own, their own. Then it's like,
It just you're kind of screwed by
defenders
literally
screwed.
just by the position that you're playing.
It's tough for sure.
What does a defender need to win the Balon d'Or? What do they need to do?
I mean, even Sergio Ramos didn't win it when he was winning Champions Leagues with Real Madrid. So
I think you'd have to be to the point, like you'd have to captain your national team and probably your club team, and you would have to win 2 trophies. Like that's exactly what it would have to be.
Tough.
And even then, you better hope that one of your
some other
countrymen doesn't play in the same club as you. So I guess you can make an argument that there should be one for defenders, because they don't get much recognition.
Then you'd be like, oh, he won it, but it's not really the main award, and it's just like, then that loses credibility on its own.
All right, so we've established it's completely lost its credibility, and there should be a new award. Well, there is the new award. First of all, we haven't actually established that, but we are asking some questions. Yeah. There's the other award too, the UEFA one now that they've split up. Mm-hmm. But that one doesn't get anywhere near as much credibility, because obviously it's not the Balon d'Or, even though it's technically supposed to be the best player as well in Europe, right? Though officially,
that's the Europe one. Yeah. But again, like I don't even follow it anymore, to be honest. I think, like to Joel's point, we've watched Ronaldo and Messi win it nonstop, and it was fun for a while just to see who's gonna edge the other one out. But now it's very hard. I think just because they were so much better than everybody else, now it's so much harder to pick out one player that's so much better than everybody else.
Right.
Where there's so many players at the same level compared to what it was. So now it's like, I don't know if it's losing its credibility. It's just more like everybody's more even compared to what we've witnessed for most of our lives.
How long do you think before another battle like that happens again, where it's 2 players just?
I could see it being Haaland and Bellingham for the next 10 years.
I'm hoping Mbappe gets in there somehow if he goes to Real Madrid.
And I wonder if Mbappe has a better chance of winning it if he leaves PSG, because it's kind of hard to win the Ballon d'Or if you're playing for PSG, right?
Do you think, though, that he'll go to Real Madrid because people have said that he didn't like playing with Messi and Neymar because they were such big stars, and he's been rumored to go to Real Madrid for years now. Then all of a sudden Bellingham goes there, is becoming a huge star. Do you think that changes what Mbappe's thinking and says, man, do I really want to go there?
I don't know what he's doing right now, because he keeps doing this whole, I want to leave PSG and then I'm back. And then he did the whole where he wanted to leave PSG until they finally got rid of Neymar, right? And then as soon as they got rid of Neymar, he's like, all right, I'm back in training, no big deal. I think he needs to go to the Premier League. He needs to go to the Premier League, or he needs to go to Spain. One of those two.
He can't stay in.
He cannot stay in France.
So is he going to go to Real Madrid? Or now is he going to switch and go to
No, I think he'll.
Barcelona?
I think if anything, no, he'll go to Real Madrid.
I think he goes to Real Madrid next year. I mean, he on a free transfer.
There's a thing.
He's not even free. Did he sign a new contract?
I can't remember. I don't know if they've sorted that one out yet. But there's a thing about players that once they set their minds to go to play for Real Madrid, you're not changing their mind. Ronaldo Once, I mean,
Always.
he told Sir Alex Ferguson, "I want to go to Real Madrid." That's Jude Bellingham. It was pretty clear though, even though like he was quiet when they were given the whole Liverpool links, but even he was like, the dream is to go to Real Madrid and play for Real Madrid." And Mbappe feels like the same story where he's like, "I'm gonna go at some point. It's just a matter of timing."
Yeah.
Anyway, news around the world. We haven't talked about, which is slightly upsetting. We haven't talked about my boy Jose Mourinho in a while. Dude got red carded in the last game because he did the little crying face to the other team after a win. Do we ever get to see Jose Mourinho back in the Premier League? We talked about Manchester United. Chances of them bringing him back are quite slim. Chelsea did it though. Although he didn't have as much success with Manchester United as he did with Chelsea the first time, which is probably why they gave him the second go around. But what are the chances of him going back to the Premier League?
I don't see. I would say 0% chance because he wouldn't go to Arsenal. I don't think, and we wouldn't want him for any time soon. Arteta's not going anywhere. Is Chelsea going to bring him back for the third time? I doubt it. I don't think he'll go back to Tottenham. He doesn't want to go there, and I don't think they'd want to have him.
What about a smaller team?
No.
You don't think you think he'll retire before he does that?
Yeah. Or he'd go. I could see him going and doing something crazy and going to coach a national team like the United States just because he wants to. Yeah. But I don't see him coaching in England again, no.
They also do like him at Roma.
They do like
I know
him.
they haven't been performing very well lately, but they love him there.
Yeah.
Everyone loves
I
him
think
there.
the last few games, I think they've put together some wins, but they started off the season pretty poor after winning the conference league.
Yeah.
But Roma's different because you're looking like they're the mid-table team in Italy, right? So not mid. I mean, kind of mid-table. You're looking at getting into the Conference League, Europa League. You're not really thinking of Roma of like, okay, they're going to be Champions League winners anytime soon or anything of the sort. So when you look at the Premier League teams, the top 5 teams are not looking at him at all. Like there's no chance he's going in the top 5. Can he go somewhere? I don't know, like a West Ham. I don't know.
It'd be a fun project. I
mean, I would want it just because I really like Mourinho as a coach and as a just the person to be in the Premier League,
right?
Just because of who he is and what he represents.
I do think Mourinho leaving the Premier League loses a lot of hype. Not necessarily a lot of hype, but every time Mourinho played against Guardiola, it was a massive game. And all of the drama and all of the interviews and everything. Once Mourinho leaves, it's like kind of quiet in terms of like the coaching battles. Like now, even Klopp versus Pep is like not as hyped. Arteta's the one that like now they're hyping the games up when he's playing because he gets on the sidelines and he starts talking shit to Klopp and stuff like that. But I do think that I miss Mourinho on the sidelines for sure.
He's a character.
Oh, he's great to watch. Great TV. Great entertainment.
All or nothing. That was Spurs. That was amazing. I'm glad they did it when he was there, just so we can see what he's like as a coach. So
somebody's got to bring him back. Luton Town.
No.
Liverpool could after Klopp's up.
Okay, it's okay. Nope.
He's a. It's hard. I was surprised.
He has his own system where he needs to fit in perfect.
Which is why I was so surprised that Manchester United wanted him.
Yeah.
But because that didn't fit their profile whatsoever. They took a risk. And crazy part about it is that they gave him so much shit, but he was actually one of the best managers. Like he finished second one year behind Manchester City, and people were saying it was a terrible season.
And then that's when he got fired, right?
Yeah, and he was like, I've literally given you the best season you've had since Sir Alex Ferguson, and you guys are making it seem like I failed.
And didn't he say this is better than winning the league or winning the Champions League or something like that? Best achievement in my career or something of the sort.
Yeah, finishing second with that team. What about Bielsa? Does he come back anytime soon?
No, I mean he just got the Uruguay job.
Yeah, I'm gonna say he's busy. Yeah, employed,
making my boy Darwin the player he is.
Hey, that could be really good for him.
Yeah, I mean,
I don't know. National team jobs are hard, man. So hard.
I mean, they're doing great. Uruguay just beat Brazil.
Yeah,
Darwin scoring again. It's no, I think that's a good fit. Bielsa, Uruguay is a good fit. I think Bielsa in South America is a good fit, just because I feel like those players would be more bought in to his style and the way he wants everything to go, rather than going to like a team in the Premier League where for a year or two or half a season they might keep up with it, but then you get too tired or worn out. With the national team, you play 2 games, you're done. Like you don't have to. You don't have to keep that same intensity. And I actually think, in a World Cup scenario or any national like tournament, they would be great. Uruguay is going to be a really good team just because they can keep up with that intensity for certain like 5-6 games. Where like again in a regular season, you're playing 30, 40 games, you cannot do that nonstop.
You mean mostly just the way that he has him playing or training or both?
Both. I mean, what, he trains like 3 times a day or something like that? Like I remember,
That wouldn't surprise me.
Yeah, like the guy's insane. But it works. Like
temporarily.
Exactly.
Temporarily,
So-
which might make more sense with the national team because obviously they're not
Yep.
training for a sustained period of time.
4 to 6 week sprint to get ready for a tournament and get out there, go crazy, run
around and win some games. But
It'll be so. I mean, they're going to be in the Copa America.
yeah, so that's
that'll be a
fun to
good.
watch.
Yeah, that'll be a good test to see where he's at.
Yeah.
Should that be one of the games we go watch?
Yeah,
Oh yeah, that's the.
let's go watch Georgie's boy Darwin Nunez miss a couple sitters.
He's going to hat trick.
Not
in the
even
game, I
Bielsa
go.
can help him change that.
Listen, I'm ordering a Soboslai jersey and a Darwin Nunes jersey.
Soboslai
this
is
week.
impressive. I like him.
Soboslai is very good.
I like him. He's very good.
Very, very good.
Legit.
All right, listen. We got some quick facts. Well, I got one quick fact because we said in the last few podcasts we should all bring one quick fact or one interesting fact to each podcast. All right, so think about that for next time, Joe. I got one
it.
right now. Don't fully remember it
So you do.
because I wrote it down on my iPad. And
Fact check? Fact check?
This is not a fact check moment, but King Edward, the 5th, 6th, 8th, I don't know, one of the King Edwards. I think it was King Edward. I believe it was King Edward. Back in the day,
Back in my day.
banned football from like being played because it took time away from archery, from people training archery, and in times of war, that was seen as a threat to their national safety, national security, because he wanted people to be training in archery to prepare for war, and they were spending too much time playing football. So he banned it.
It's a good fact.
That's a good fact, yeah.
So
If
and
true.
then I think and then I think he tried to ban it again later on or something like that. But
And
he
then
did
there-
ban it. This was back in the day or whatever. But
Wow.
I wonder what it looked like back then too, because it didn't look anything like what it looks like now. That was like 1300s or something crazy like that.
And imagine like we're watching stuff from 40 years ago and it looks terrible. Can you imagine?
They didn't get VAR calls wrong. I bet you that.
Probably no referees either. So just free for all.
All right, you guys got any facts? You guys got any interesting facts?
No.
Is that it for today then?
Yeah.
Do we miss any topics? Is there anything that we haven't touched on? Other than that, Georgie is the clear winner for the predictions, even though
Yeah, George won the
6
prediction
even
points.
though technically he was not here to record his video.
Yep. To be honest, though, this week is a bit tougher just because the games are.
The games are not so clear cut.
Yeah,
I
they're
think.
not so clear cut. So it's gonna be a bit tougher.
All
This
right,
upcoming weekend?
Yep.
fantastic. Well, happy Halloween, everyone! Thank
Happy
you for tuning
Halloween.
in, and we'll catch you in the next episode of the Next Goal Wins podcast. Peace.
Messi to the